So, what are some of the mistakes you made when you first started doing cold outreach?
I think one of the biggest lessons you can learn is
We've never seen that good a technology for outbound or even inbound.
due to AI being what it is, and I feel that there is a consequence, which is that
The shocking thing at this time is that hello everyone and welcome to SalesRobot Customer of the Week, a new show where we interview the best SalesRobot customers and really figure out what made them successful. We go deep into their process with hot tips around targeting, messaging, and personalization so that you can take away some tips to implement in your cold outreach starting tomorrow. Today, we have Alex Sardinha from Honda Marketing. Welcome to the show, Alex.
thank you for having me, Saurav. A pleasure to be here. Looking forward to it.
Awesome. So let's get right into it. What does your business do and how do you make money?
Oh, well, that's a question and a half. So, Saurav, what we do is we help clients understand, or especially clients who are referral or channel partner based, to build a direct channel for revenue. So a lot of the companies that we work with are in the edtech sector. They're not just them, but that's the majority of the people we work with. And we're just helping them to understand a complete end-to-end sales process. The art of the indirect is something that I've been preaching for a little while now, and that's what we help companies to achieve. So that's what we've been doing with a handful of clients at the moment.
Awesome. That sounds good. So let's get into this campaign that you ran that got you here. I'll not bury the lead. I'll first show the results that you had, and then we'll go back into the process and how you actually got there. So, do you remember the campaign a little bit? What was the campaign about, or no?
No. So you highlighted it to me because it was a year ago, and to be honest, Saurav, a lot of my team are the genius behind the mechanism. So I can't take full credit, naturally, but I'm happy to talk through it and discuss and share any insights that are, useful from it.
Awesome. So,
Yeah.
this was the campaign in Honda e-learning. I think it was started about a year ago, like exactly a year ago, I think. And these are the results. You reached out to about 460 people, 54.5% acceptance rate, and 40% reply rate, close to 100 replies. So phenomenal results, first of all.
Yeah,
Okay,
definitely. I mean, shout out to Kirsten and shout out to Andy, members of the team that put this campaign together. And when we go into the messaging, I'll be able to explain a bit about why it worked.
awesome. So let's get into the targeting first, and then we'll get into the messaging. So this was the list that you used. So let's go into the actual search and then look at why it actually worked.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'll just open up the search and go from there.
Whilst you're opening up the search, it's very interesting. Some of the searches that we've been doing recently, because this is a year back, but this was a much more broader search.
Mhm.
And for us, it worked because we find that if you're going after directors,
Mm.
put in learning directors in the search bar
Mm.
alongside the industry segmentation,
Mm.
gets you pretty good results. And depending on who you are, it depends how accurate you need to be. But for us, keeping it quite open was okay at this point.
Yeah, so you use the keyword e-learning directors. Locations are mostly UK, some US as well. And you wanted the profile language to be English, and the industry was education, higher ed, and e-learning. So quite narrow, but it was broadened by this filter essentially.
Yeah, yeah.
I think one thing you could do if you wanted to be tighter was something like a Boolean search. So like e-learning and director here would possibly reduce the number of results, but then give you more targeted, yeah. So instead of 33,600, you end up with almost 7,000, but this would probably be a tighter search. Like these are directors of e-learning for sure at
Yeah, that's
different.
yeah, for sure. The Boolean search and or not helps to get that refine the search, right? So you're
Yeah.
100% correct on that.
Yep. Perfect. No, that was a good list because you were going more broad. But with that, let's get into the messaging a little bit. So this was the connection request that you used. So talk me through it.
Yeah, I believe my team were just going and just making sure that the connection message was relevant. So because we were going out to people in the e-learning space, just mentioning something like, "Are you as passionate about the e-learning as I am?" helps to just keep the conversation quite casual, the opening quite casual but unique. Because most of the time you don't get any kind of connection request message, which sometimes works better again. But this one will work better than just, "Hey, I want to add you to my network," for example.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely some ways to improve this. But it's an okay message. It's an okay message. Happy
I
with it.
think it's a good message because you actually see the data, right? It got you almost a 50% plus acceptance rate. So that goes to show you like having a good profile, like a well optimized, nicely optimized profile. And you have the list where these are all people in the learning space. So you're using that as a part of the message. So I think it goes to show you sometimes simpler is better, right? Because you just talk about their passion for learning and you're ending up with a more than 50% acceptance rate, which is much higher than average, which is 30%.
Oh yeah, well, maybe I'll give you the secret to a 90% connection campaign.
Yeah, you're always the kind of guy who aims higher, so I love that. Okay, this was the connection that's done. Let's get into the messaging once they accept. So yeah, just talk me through it a little bit.
Yeah, so I think what worked here, from my perspective, again, I didn't create these messages, it was my team, is there's two factors. One is that we incentivized the reason for them to respond. I think we have in this a complimentary month of LinkedIn outreach, so that is not something that everyone is offering. It de-risks the situation. So again, this is quite a direct message. Since then, we are practicing more value driven in terms of an indirect kind of interview request, group request, webinar request, something that educates the client. But in this case, because there's an interesting book actually, Sarav, that talks about why do people not move forward in the sales process. And the previous understanding was because people fear change. That's why they didn't make a decision. They said no. But what they found from analyzing hundreds of thousands of conversations is people actually fear making the wrong decision. So by being able to offer a complimentary month, it means that you're not spending any money. It de-risks the exchange and the decision, so you get far more people to respond in this instance. Coupled with the next line where we speak about a high-profile client that we've worked with and generated results for, that helps again de-risk that decision and also incentivize a response. Lastly, what worked exceptionally well, this is on Andy's part, is putting together a landing page that had a bit of a video sales letter that just helped bridge the gap for those that wanted to listen to more. So we actually got some people that just booked straight in through that as well. So it just gave people a bit of a chance to understand more about our results and what we do. But that kind of is a combination of message. I would like to, you could shorten it a bit as well. But the thing about LinkedIn is that it's not like email where you're passing through spam filters, so you can be a bit more lengthier with your messaging.
Yeah, yeah. I love this message for a number of reasons, but the biggest thing for me is this, right? Like you're giving them both the options because most people, people mostly make decisions differently. Like some people will be interested in taking up the offer immediately, others like doing their own research, right? So you never know what kind of person is there on the other end. So if you're giving them both the options, you're covering your bases, and there are people who will get nurtured through the landing page. And the other thing is, and I've seen some people do it really well. They run retargeting ads after they actually visit the page, right? So that the video sales letter, even if they don't convert right on the first visit, they start looking at your later parts of the funnel, the ads and everything, and you somehow get that conversion later.
Yeah, you point out a good point there actually, Sarav, is the giving two options rather than a yes or no, which is binary. You're kind of going, or which one would you like? And you're catering to those two different types of personalities. Those people who just would rather jump on a call and talk it out. Myself, some people that just would like to do their research before jumping on any calls, which is probably yourself, Sarav.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So this is great, and obviously the offer is strong as well. You're doing like the part about making the wrong decision is spot on. So that's why you need to de-risk as much as possible. We recently had a client, a UK client, who's in a very, very competitive space. Like they are in the executive coaching space, and they got a ton of results with this. So they offered them a free career planning audit, career planning session, and along with that, they had like 50 plus LinkedIn recommendations. So, here instead of their page, they just use their LinkedIn recommendations. Like, feel free to browse my LinkedIn recommendations. And I'm sure if people read even 5 of those, they would be much more likely to see and convert because the recommendations were really good.
Yeah, yeah. Your point, again, that's the social proof element, and you mentioned it on the connection message, which was that profiles are important also, just to make sure that when people do check you out, that you do everything possible to help them understand what's the big problem you solve, how you solve it, what are the benefits of it being solved, and the experiences you've been able to help other clients get. So, to your point, yeah, it works really well.
Awesome. So those are the messaging. Let's get into some of the replies. Do you remember if this was like a decent success, big success, or like a small success for you, or not a success at all? Do you remember this campaign or no?
So a year ago, Saurav, that's to my memory, but
Putting you on the spot.
yeah. Let's say that we've grown. We're happy with the results thus far, so it must be working. Yeah, um, that's the
Awesome.
thing. But yeah, no. But as I mentioned, a lot of what we're doing now is around roundtables,
Mm.
events, groups, and just helping clients understand how to get into more conversations. Because depending on where you are in your or who you're targeting, so the size of the business, yeah, it really depends on the approach, especially those companies who are targeting hard to reach
Mm.
organizations at enterprise level, CTOs, for example, or decision makers of that realm. It's hard to just offer some sort of guarantee like this, right? Work from a marketing standpoint, but when you go into businesses and trying to understand their nuances, then yeah, it's a different game altogether. But some of that you can take as an agency and deploy to your own benefit.
Absolutely, absolutely. That brings me to my next question. So, what are some of the mistakes you made when you first started doing cold outreach?
Long messages, 5 paragraph long messages, trying to sell the product or pitch the meeting straight away, thinking more volume is better, and
Mm.
that's all it took. Those were some of the mistakes when it came to cold outreach for sure. Stopping, like, not, I think one of the biggest lessons you can learn is a lot of the time it's, are you trying to be a transactional organization? Which
Mm.
by this, I mean, are you just trying to get someone to spend money and go away? And that's it. Or are you trying to build a brand? And you can think of Rolex, right?
Mm.
Casio costs 100 times less than a
Mm.
Rolex. So why do you buy the Rolex? Because they've established a brand, and it's because of
Right.
the relationships they've built with their audience. So I think that is really important to understand, because a lot of people going into the space, or even if you're building your own business, you're so hungry for money naturally that
Mm.
you sometimes forget the importance of building those relationships, because those relationships turn into pipeline, and the bigger
Mm.
that pipeline is, the bigger pool of relationships that you nurture, the better chances you have of generating that nirvana moment of cash flow, clients flowing in. It all comes from these pieces of the puzzle being strung together. So you need to understand what is the value that you can provide
Mm.
front end before you even ask anything. When you
Right.
can do that, you get a ton of responses.
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. Absolutely love that because we've been trying to do a lot of that in our business. So we put out a ton of free content, just value, with no expectation genuinely of it converting into, revenue. But somehow that is the part that converts the best, right? Because they can see that, hey, this is somebody who cares, who's putting out a ton of free content that other people would have charged for, could have easily put in a course, right? And sold for $600, but it's going out for free. So that's what actually builds a brand. If you just show that you're all about just teaching them what you learn on the go.
Yeah, and it helps you as well, isn't it? When you
Yeah.
go through that full process of writing down exactly how you were able to craft or curate a campaign, helps you solidify and crystallize your thoughts. So it even helps you,
Yeah.
right? I'm sure that you've had that experience of seeing the amazing content you've been pushing out on YouTube, blog
Yeah.
posts everywhere. It's
Yeah,
amazing to see.
writing it down helps. Writing is thinking. So yeah, it does help.
Mm.
Awesome. So that brings me to my last question. what are some of the things you're excited about trying to improve your cold outreach process?
Oh, that's a really good question. Wow, what is there that we're trying? We're trying always something new. I think the biggest excitement for me is the in-person events that we're curating. So these highly curated in-person events. Uh, that I think that due to AI being what it is and allowing people to pump out content at scale, I feel that there is a consequence to that, which is that people will feel a bit overwhelmed by the amount of noise that is out there. So we may default back to just having these small communities where we reach out and we strike partnerships and we just hear from people who we know are experts of their craft. And I think curating those small tribes or those experiences is part of what we're trying to do more of. So I don't know if that's really testing out technology. You know that I love technology and I could talk about it all day long. But I'm trying to take a step back and look at the landscape of what's happening with AI. I'm sure that there's going to be an AI response handling mechanism at some point. I've seen some ChatGPT customs out there, but with of course deep into clay as well. So I'm sure that will evolve over time. But yeah, not anything else that I can think of, Sarah. What about yourself? Is there anything that you're excited about?
Yeah, so this is an area where we're looking at multiple things. Clay, of course, is great. We've never seen that good a technology for outbound or even inbound, just in organizing the workspace and making sure that everybody who we're reaching out to or they are reaching out to us gets a relevant and timely response. So nothing is better than Clay in that sense. What we are excited about and we're building there is like the response handler, right? So we are actually going to release our response handler just in a couple of weeks. We're always excited about this kind of technology, and the shocking thing at this time that actually does talk like a human. In our early tests, we tested with a group of about 10 beta testers. People can't tell that it's an AI, right? We've officially crossed that point, especially if you have a good SOP that the AI is following and you have the right AI model. So we use Claude for a ton of things, like ChatGPT doesn't cut it. But we're seeing phenomenal results. So it's kind of uncanny valley for me as well. So what you're talking about when you're talking about in-person events, I love doing that, or I love doing more of like webinars where people can come in and see that, hey, I'm a real person, I'm trying to talk to you. Yeah, I think those will become more important. So the call to actions in your cold outreach will go from, hey, let's meet, to, hey, we're doing this event. It's a small curated event, online or offline, but you'll get to see, people who are part of this community trying to learn. So yeah, I really love that whole aspect, because I think people will crave more, sort of authentic connection when they're getting like thousands of these messages and they don't know the person behind the message is really a person.
Yeah, and I think it's exciting because you've been to exhibitions and events where there's thousands of people and it's a bit too noisy there as well. So if you're able to curate these events and bring like-minded individuals, especially if they're your decision makers, the people you want to get in front of, and you have these types of interesting conversations, even like the one we're having, I think that is the future. I do think that there's a lot of that will be taking place. But to your point, Claude it does feel more natural when it comes to the content it creates, even from a writing perspective. So it's interesting that you're already doing what I'm thinking, which is just like you, yeah, 2 steps ahead, Sarah, which is awesome. But yeah, no, yes, it's interesting you're doing that.
Awesome. Always learning from you. Awesome. So that's all the time we have today, Alex. Thank you so much for making the time. I really enjoyed our conversation, and we wish you best of luck in 2025.
Awesome. You too, Sarah. It's a pleasure.